Good morning. Welcome to Community Voice. I'm your host, Keith Parris. I want to thank everybody for joining us this morning. Good morning, Byron.
Good morning.
What's happening?
Pretty good, man. I'm pretty good.
You pretty good. What's up? Treadmill? What's happening? No, we ain't going to get started, man.
I'm good.
Dude.
I'm
I got
good.
worn out when I got home. So you
Good.
get me in too much trouble
Hey,
around
man,
here, man.
I figured somebody got to get in
I
trouble.
guess,
Might as well
man.
be you.
I'm going to be able to go home, man. I can't even go home, dude. Well, I want to welcome back everyone to the program today. We're joined in studio by Dr. Cass Bowers. She is the executive director of All In Wisconsin. Good morning.
Good morning.
How are you?
I'm good. I'm really good. Not Monday anymore. Thank God for that.
What's with Mondays? You eat Mondays?
Yeah, it just seemed like it starts so slow.
You know what, man? It used to be. I don't have that kind of lifestyle anymore. But when I was full-time employed, Sunday night, you be thinking,
Yeah.
I gotta get up
Like, where did my
tomorrow. It's
weekend
Monday,
go?
yeah.
That
You know,
is
it's like
it.
it is Monday, man. So anyway, well, welcome. Let me do this for Jermaine real quick. Juju went down last night,
And I saw that, and
so we'll talk about that.
I knew it.
Yeah, boy.
I knew it.
So anyway, welcome.
Thank you. I'm
First
glad to
time
be
here.
here.
We're glad to have you here. Tell us a
Same
little bit
time.
about you.
About me. Oh, I get to talk about myself. I
Oh,
am.
did you hear that? Did you just sing that? I wrote a song about it.
One thing you need to know about me, I'm a PK, so I know.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay,
yeah.
sing a little bit.
Sing a little bit.
Yeah,
do a
we
little,
can hear that.
No.
Hallelujah.
My dad's favorite song is Amazing Grace. Y'all know that? No, just play it.
It's supposed to be everybody
Oh,
singing this song.
that's one that they hold.
How about that? Why we hold that A so long?
That's exactly it.
Like, get it over with, man.
That is the note,
my
man.
God.
You're right. The song would be a lot shorter without
Oh,
that.
man. Oh, boy, I tell you. Well, that's why I love our African people all over the world, because we bring our own little swag to it.
Yeah.
But I've just heard no one just actually sing it like amazing.
Nobody.
Oh,
No,
Lord. Oh,
no.
man. So, PK?
I am a preacher's kid. I am born and raised in Milwaukee. I am a Milwaukee girl, love Milwaukee. I have every opportunity to leave, and I stayed here. I decided that this is my city. And of course, I have family here, my parents, my children, my grandchildren are all here. So I have 5 grandbabies. I love them dearly. They are my
What do
life.
they call you?
They call me Gigi. I am the Gigi. I am the new school grandma. I do go by Gigi.
No.
Not by my design. My daughter was like, you are not the grandma. So we're going to call you Gigi.
My grandmother, when I got here, looked like a grandmother. Anime looked like a grandmother. Anime was grandmother. But I know I was just talking to somebody else yesterday, and she was saying that she's expecting her first grandchild. And she said, they ain't call me grandmother. Call me Gigi.
Well, I actually love it. I always tell people, I never let people think that my grandkids are my kids. I'm like, no, that's my grandbaby. I'm so proud to be their grandmother. So they call me Gigi, but I'm proud to be their grandmother. So yes, I went to John Marshall High School, the journalism. Yeah. Milwaukee Public School girl. All my college career was here, got this PhD in business, but I grew up on 19th and Keith, like not right around the corner from where we're at. So,
That's my
yeah.
My junior high school was over there,
Yeah.
Francis Parkman.
Yep. So, my grandmothers lived in, blocks from each other. So I would be amongst my grandmothers a lot. And so,
you had this experience, though, that I think some people who may or may not, where, you grew up in the community.
Mhm.
And so then you have these community roots. And I think that that's important when we're talking about doing a lot of the work that we do in the community, because you know the community.
I know the community. Yeah. And I say it all the time. I am living in the community that I'm in service to. So I didn't move out of it. I still live in Sherman Park neighborhood. So I stayed here intentionally because of my love of my community.
So what is All in Wisconsin?
That's a better question. All in Wisconsin is a communications organization that fights through narrative work for racial justice. So we give our community partners the words to win for our community. So we want to make sure, I personally
Can you
make sure.
say that again, because I just stole that. Words to win.
I say this all the time. You can have it. We give our partners the words to win for our communities. A lot of people think about candidates, especially right now. We have an election on April 1st, and elections are important.
How about the irony of that?
Right. But we want to, April Fool's Day. We have so many things to say about that. But I really am the disruptor of that, and I always bring it back to the community.
So when I love the term narrative. So talk about that. When we hear narrative, we talk about how we're presented, how communities are presented in media. So how important is it to change the narrative?
It's so
even control the narrative.
It is so important, especially in the times that we're in right now, where people don't trust media anymore. They can Google, they can go on other places. And so we have to, what I always say, because I am a PK, we have to build our choir, and our choir has to sing more beautifully than the noise. So we have to, the narrative for me is building our choir. So that that show with Whoopi Goldberg, Sister Act, when it starts and she's trying to get the choir together, they're not singing in harmony, they're not doing anything together, and she gets them together, and then the congregation starts coming, it starts filling up. That's what I feel like my role is as the leader of All in Wisconsin, is to build that choir and make us sing louder than all the noise of hate and racism and all of that. So
Dr. Jones so famously said, one band, one sound, and even though we have all these different parts, it's still one band, and we're creating one sound, one narrative.
Absolutely.
To be able. So we talk about that in terms of Aristotle said that man is a political animal. So it's always politics. It might not be partisan, but it's still politics, right? So part of, do you look at that in terms, do you look at we use this term community organizing. Is that a part of that?
It is. I believe communications and organizing is a marriage where we do different things when we come together. A good marriage, you stay together. You do, like, you have a center goal, but you do different things. I have a bunch of analogies, so because I'm a communications person, so everything is going to be an analogy. So
might take issue with that good marriage, but you stay together. You stay together in spite of it anyway. So,
True.
But I think that is the to act as if we don't have. We're human beings, so we do have negatives. You know, but that's only a part of it. It's not all of it.
It's not all of it.
And I think sometimes the narrative is it's just all negative.
And I see a lot of that. Even in our stories and how we tell them, we start with the negative, and I push my team to start with the positive and stop focusing on the negative so much. So we start
full.
Right. Or there's water in your glass.
Oh,
like, it's not that it's just half full, that you have something to drink.
Now, see, that would be my mama's testimony.
See, there you go. There you go.
It'd be like, it might be half full, but there's still water.
There's still water in there. Yeah. So let's focus on the water.
And get an offer in this morning. Keep on talking.
What kind of offer?
But I hear that, and I think sometimes we embody the negative narrative, right?
We do, and it is really our job, or like my job and the work that I do, is when I say give the community the words to win, I need to start talking to people. Like, I'm in the community, I'm talking to folks and saying, what about this? Like that people use the saying a lot for the Black community, crabs in a barrel. And I really don't like that saying, because the barrel isn't the natural habitat of a crab.
That's what I heard someone say that. So profound. Crabs are not even supposed to be in a barrel.
They're not supposed
That's
to be
why
in
they're trying
barrel.
to get out the barrel.
That's why they're trying to get out. So it makes sense. Like, the things I see in my community, and like if I drive through my old neighborhood, it makes me sad, but also I know there's good people everywhere, and they start in my community. Like I am really, really deeply in love with my people.
How important is it? As I was telling you before we came on air, I got a phone call from someone, um, and it was talk about the glass half full. People were showing up to vote,
Hmm.
but they didn't always kind of know how important it is us to do education, not to say who to vote for,
Hmm.
but who you're voting for. Here's what he and or she is doing, and then make a
Absolutely,
choice.
it is so important to give people what they need to make an informed decision, and they will make the decision. Um, and we need to really trust people to do that. Like they may not agree with us, but we have to trust them. Once I give you all the information, I have to trust you to do the next step and vote for your people. You may not. We might be different and you might vote for who you vote for, but we have to trust that process. And it's so tight in Wisconsin. Like it is like a oiled machine, the way the voting process works here. There's some barriers to voting here, like, but it is a well oiled machine in how they count every vote and all of those
Which
things.
is obvious. That is obvious to me, maybe not to others, but this idea that you would think that you want full participation in democracy,
Hmm.
but then it is still a numbers game.
It is. It is.
How when you're out and you're speaking to folks and use it, what's that song? Use your words.
Hmm.
How important then is it excuse me, how we describe a problem?
Yeah, it is important because we have to connect the problems of the person we're talking to. We have to get to know the person. So the way narrative works is that it's not an ad or a phone call. It's me building a relationship with you, and now you trust me to understand the narrative that I'm providing comes from you. So I need to get to know the people that I'm in service of to be able to fight for the things that they need and the things that they want. If I don't do that, then I'm just like any other person that comes to the neighborhood and says vote for me. And so it's really about knowing what their needs are, meeting their basic needs. So sometimes we just need to feed our people and they come and then we, meet that basic need and then they listen to us.
I was Michelle and I had met during the last political cycle I'm only doing this with the members of the Democratic Party.
Hmm.
And so they were laying out what their media strategy was.
Hmm.
And they were going, well, democracy is on the ballot. And Michelle and I had a very visceral reaction. We're going like, that might be problematic for descendants of enslaved Africans because we've not always seen where we benefited from democracy,
Hmm.
right?
Hmm.
And then and for some of us, as opposed to it being tangible, is it a concrete? Now, just full disclosure, I majored in political science. Democracy is messy because democracy means the people are participating, which means you got all kind of people coming to the table, right?
Yeah.
So it is in terms of messaging. How does it impact on me? Things like how do you say to a person, vote your interest?
Yeah. Yeah. You connect their interests with your shared value. We have more things in common than not. Like I just talked about my family, my grandkids. Everyone wants their family to have, you know, they want to have to be able to provide for their family. Everyone wants that. So that shared value will connect us instantly. Like I just have a conversation with people and I know we're going to connect on something. And that connection is going to lead me to, the next step and hopefully a candidate that cares. Not always. They don't always
Yeah, but
care,
then you
but
can make them care because if they care about being reelected,
yeah. Right, right.
but I think a lot of times we vote people in and then we walk away assuming
Mhm.
that they're going to do
Mhm.
what's right. But part of
Mhm.
that is the pressure
The
to make
pressure.
sure that they're going to do
Yeah.
what's right. Because there are all of these temptations that elected officials deal with,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
sometimes it's easy to lose touch with the very people that put you in.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's also again my job, our job, to keep that pressure on, once they get elected. I always say it doesn't stop. My work doesn't stop on April 1st. It begins, because now I'm holding this person accountable. Whoever that person is, I'm holding them accountable to my community and what they say their needs are.
I've been here about 6 years now.
Mhm.
And even before I was at WGLB, but when I was here. And so we worked through election cycles.
Mhm.
And one of the things we say, all the people, the national people, the local people, we always say, well, this is the most existential election. And then finally someone just said, you know what? Every election is existential, whether you think it's like this time around. Now, this is a consequential election. Because we're talking about public education, and we're also talking about the Supreme Court.
Right.
Why is people voting, or why is it important for people to vote, particularly in this election?
Yeah, this election is so important, for like all eyes are on Wisconsin, but aside from that, it's so
It's $100
important.
million. Like,
Right.
it's a whole lot of
It's
people.
100 million. Right. It has, like, the money always speaks to folks, but it's so important because, for one, if we think about education and how education has been kind of weaponized for at least Black kids in the state of Wisconsin. Like, we see how the public dollars come in, or how the federal dollars come in. It's important to have someone that kind of can toe the line for public schools and what folks need. So this important thing on a ballot is like who the superintendent is of the state of Wisconsin is really important. And then for the Supreme Court, there are so many things that the Supreme Court decides in Wisconsin. The Supreme Court I don't remember what year but they decided when Black men were able to vote. It was the Wisconsin Supreme Court, one of the first states in the country to let Black men vote. That happened at the Wisconsin Supreme Court level. So that's how important it is for the decisions that they make. And then there's other things on the ballot. There's of course, there's abortion and how, the state will, decide that. It comes down to the Supreme Court. There are so many everyday things that we don't think about in how the government works. And it's the Supreme Court, the superintendent, there's local school board. There's a lot that happens in elections. And this election is
And to
no
show
different.
you the importance of this Supreme Court, one of the reasons why Elon Musk is putting so much money into this particular race is, well, one, obviously they would want a conservative court, but two, he's suing the state of Wisconsin.
He's suing the state of Wisconsin.
So he's so this idea out there that if it doesn't matter, it really does matter. Who said if it don't make dollars, it don't make sense? Yeah, that is
in politics. That is,
oh man, real talk.
I mean,
cash rules everything around me. I mean, it
almost everything. They always say you follow the money.
Oh,
You can follow the money back to whatever, and so it is true almost in everything we do.
So, are you all doing any work around this election in terms of voter education, voter participation?
Absolutely. So there are so many voting dates. Like we work with on 60th and Capitol. You can go early vote. Like you can early vote right now. It's very important to do that if at all
it looks
possible.
like people are.
They are, yeah. Because I was gonna go and I'm like, wait, I'll go a little later because there's a line.
123,000 people.
Yeah. So early voting is important. We have the ballot. We got the ballot boxes back. And that's because we won on fair maps. And
guess what that was? A Supreme Court decision.
We get a Supreme Court decision. So folks that they can't stand in line, they can't stand, period, they can go drop it off in the ballot box. And that was something that the Supreme Court decided. Wisconsin Supreme Court decided. So yeah, that's one of the things. We do a lot of voter education in the process and how it works, what's on the ballot. We never say democracy is on the ballot because what is democracy?
Right.
Like that is
the
not
fact you got a ballot.
Did you know that's democracy? Right. So civil rights is on the ballot. Like we talk about that. We talk about how, our civil rights could be changed if we have, a court that's only on one side.
And some people really do view access to abortion as a civil right. Some people that is kind of where some people are.
Yeah. There's environmental issues that are, important. We have lead in our water.
Yeah. Well, we were just had the people in from Walnut Way,
Yeah.
who's dealing with this whole issue, the new power plant,
Yep.
right? But
Yep.
the environment and, that's real. And you have things like regulations and, so the environment. Yeah.
The environment. And then there's gun safety. That's part of what the Supreme Court also would help to decide or not. Like, there are ways that we could be safer, not to take anyone's rights away, but there is a safer way to function with guns.
Yeah, because the genie's out the bottle on guns.
Right.
There are more guns than people.
Right.
So
yeah, so we do a lot on that. And also just where to go vote. You can go to, there's various websites you can go. There's various of our partners that will tell you more information, but you need to know where to go vote. We really lean into early voting and drop boxes because we feel like it's an opportunity to get in there as soon as you can.
some of the other things you all are doing there?
Yeah, I mean, and so we don't just focus on elections. We do a lot of work around just building our choir, like making sure that people understand how narratives work, making sure people that if you live in Eau Claire, Wisconsin, that you get out in your community and talk to your people and get to know them and then come back and then build for them. So we do a lot of that as well. But around the election, around this time, we just hyper focused on April 1st. So it just depends on what our partners need to support their community.
You're part of the African American Roundtable?
I am.
Okay, what is that?
The African American Roundtable. That is an organization that is built and in service of the liberation of Black people in Milwaukee. So what we do, because I am on the board, what we do is make sure that Black folks can have a political home, that they can have the things that they need as far as if they, like a mutual aid need, that they have that they have information about how the city government works. It is Milwaukee based. So we have this new participatory budgeting where we want Milwaukeeans to participate in the budgeting cycle and where the money goes, because it is our money, because our tax dollars pay for that. So that is our money. And so we need to be a part of the process. So we work with the community to make sure that they know, there's budget hearings. This is where our money is going. This is how much is spent in this department. This is how much is spent in this department. This is how you can get involved. And so being able to provide people a way to be civically engaged that they may not get in other ways.
Is there a website you all have?
Yes, it's AARTMAKE.org.
One more time.
AARTMKE.org.
What about all in Wisconsin?
All in Wisconsin is allinwi.org.
Dr. Cass Bowers, thank you.
Thank you.
Will you come back?
Absolutely. This was fun.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I love this. I'm just talking. It's easy to talk. I barely looked at my notes.
No, it's been wonderful to meet you, but I think I like the idea of, controlling the narrative.
Yeah.
And we have to have a counterbalance to messaging. I think we miss that a lot of times. If you only hear one message, that's what you go with.
Yeah.
And so the fact that you talk about controlling the narrative, I think is really important.
Yeah. And the work doesn't stop after the election. So I can definitely come back and say, what do we do now?
There you go. Dr. Cass Bowers, all in Wisconsin, the African American Roundtable. Appreciate you.
Thank you.
You're listening to Community Voice at the bottom of the hour. We'll be inside of Be Healthy, Be You. We'll be right back. Back to cranky old people complaining.
I know.
Bamboozle, man.
Old.
There's bamboozleness going on.
I'm
over
not
here,
quite
man.
sure who's old in
These
in
cranky
here.
old
Keith.
people complaining.
What's he
about.
talking about?
You know, back in my day, you got a $5. You know, so it was $5 back in my day. You know, so well,
And that chip bag was full.
oh, right.
It was. I just feel like nowadays there's a lot of bamboozleness going on, man. A lot of people been bamboozled because that bag, I was happy to get it when I opened it. So I got a bag full of air.
Oh, and then you were kind enough to share it
yeah,
too.
all that air. I shared all that oxygen.
You
with y'all.
shared all that air.
Bag of air. We're inside Be Healthy, Be You. Miss Julia Means,
Good morning.
Miss Brenda Buchanan,
Good morning.
and Miss Erica Sinclair.
Yay.
Thank myself back in here.
How's
I
everybody
look
this
like
morning?
miniature.
Doing good.
Good.
Doing well.
Good. Everybody's doing well.
Yes.
Yes, sir.
No complaints. Are you sure?
What's that song? I won't complain.
Can wear that out. Yeah, they can wear that out.
Shaking the head.
We was just talking about Amazing Grace. Why that? Oh, it takes so long. Why it taking so long to get that? I don't know what's worse, the national anthem or Amazing Grace. I was speaking of, I looked at Lift Every Voice and Sing, and I used to hate singing Lift Every Voice and Sing because it seemed like we just be singing this song just forever. Why? But I was really focusing in on the lyrics, and I went like, you know what? I'm gonna sing all 13 because it's just so powerful. A few years back, Cheryl Lee Ralph, a young lady, had the opportunity to have a conversation with, did the Negro National Anthem at the Super Bowl, and they started marching.
Oh boy.
I was too through. So thank you, Lettucey, for doing it the way it's supposed to be done. Lettucey did it well this year.
Yeah.
So Be Healthy, Be You. We're in March is eye month, right?
Eye, colorectal, it's a variety of different. Well, there's lots of things.
But last month we talked about heart care, right? Really, and that's every month when you look at the number of people who are dealing with congenital heart disease, just a lot in terms of. I was listening a little bit to Michelle's program this morning, and she was talking about the fats, right? And what are healthy fats and unhealthy fats, but the impact that it has on our heart health. And I'm gonna go out on a limb with this one. When your heart stops, you're probably gonna die.
You know what, Keith? You're right.
Really?
When your heart arrests, you're dead.
It's still the number one killer.
For men and
number
women.
one killer in congested heart disease.
Heart disease.
Heart disease in general
So
is the
more
number
than
one killer of
cancer,
Americans. Yeah, you can combine
accidents.
like 4 or 5 cancers together, and heart disease still beats that out.
Is there, what's the causal factors that makes it the number one killer in America?
Well, you can't live without a heart. That's the one. That's the one thing.
That's the first thing.
It needs to beat.
Correctly.
That's right. It needs to be.
Because I found out about AFib. I had no
Yes.
clue to what AFib was. Okay.
Yeah. So, there's just so many things, when you're talking about heart disease or cardiovascular disease, you've got your heart, the blood vessels. It is just large. It's just and of course there's congenital things, but there's also our lifestyle, which we talk about a lot. The foods that we eat, how much we eat, lack of movement, all of those things.
Genetics.
Really.
Yeah, we talk about let's talk about genetics, and from time to time we do talk about epigenetics and how maybe for us as descendants of enslaved Africans that we have different health outcomes, and we have disparity. But some of this is generational, right?
Mhm.
Absolutely.
And we were gonna also have Versity with us today.
Mhm.
So if she could please call in. What's the number, Keith? Oh,
We should have did this before we went on air, y'all.
Oh yeah.
Well, I think
All this
Julia,
pre-production going on.
I did. I tried.
All this pre-production going on right
I
now.
did try. But when you talk about genetics, we talk about sickle cell as part of some of the genetics that we have to deal with, and it it can cause short lifespan. And it would be wonderful for her to be able to tell us about
Mhm.
the different blood donations that we need for that.
Mhm.
But
And also organs,
and organs,
organs.
yeah.
And bone marrow.
bone
and
marrow
like all
for
the
sickle
things.
cell,
For
right?
sickle cell.
Yeah, look at you. You know that.
Well, I just sit here with you all every Tuesday. I should have my medical degree, and maybe a couple more Tuesdays.
Mm,
You can call me doctor.
no. Mhm.
Dr. Keith.
But
But you hear about the woman who was doing the fake? It's like the dude who was the fake doctor down in Florida,
Mhm.
and people had been going to this guy, and he had never been. I don't think he barely got out of high school, but he was practicing medicine.
he was
Wow.
faking real good.
Mhm.
Yeah, I mean, it's just, and I think and this is why these programs are so important, just because the level of education that
Mhm.
people have. You know, we don't.
Thank you.
When we go in and we talk to our doctors, a lot of times we're not going to push back on what they're saying or ask questions
Mhm.
Mhm.
because we never went to
Mhm.
medical
That's
school.
cool. And it's
Mhm.
called white coat syndrome.
Yeah.
And we do make sure that it's for, at least for our clinic for Health Connections, our providers actually don't even wear lab coats
Really?
on purpose because we have because we deal with vulnerable populations that don't trust the healthcare system as it is. So there's no need for it. They have name tags, so we know who they are.
Let's do some trivia here.
Sure.
So why are you wearing white coats anyway? What?
Well, you want to stay sanitized and clean, and you could see white better if it's dirty.
Mhm. That's a sign of trust.
Mhm.
That
You can
factors in.
bleach it.
You
It's
wear
a
black,
sign.
you get a stain, you make a.
But nurses now are not wearing
they
black. And even when I see doctors in scrubs, they're not usually white. They're blue or
Mm-hmm.
Mhm.
Mm-hmm.
It's a different material now, too. Right?
Oh,
The
yeah.
material now is so
much
different.
nicer. Yeah.
why is that important? When you say it's different material.
It doesn't hold stains.
Mhm.
more
It's easier.
repellent.
It's
Mhm.
yeah,
Yeah.
it's more repellent. That's the good.
Because I don't
right
know
word.
if I'm coming in for a doctor's appointment and here's a
Dirty.
no, I got blood all on it. I might be a little worried.
Yes.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah.
You should be.
That
is
would be a
good
problem.
sign.
Go, yeah.
That's a good consumer sign.
Yeah.
To
Mhm.
Or it's
turn back
dirty.
around.
Mhm.
Or if it's dirty.
Yeah. Well, and you
Mhm.
know, the general public, they judge our competence by how we look because
Absolutely.
until they get to know us, they don't know anything about us. So the easiest way for them to judge if we're, competent or not is by the way we present ourselves. And a lot of that is what we have on, the way we look.
Absolutely.
So when you talk about you were talking about your clinic.
Mhm.
So tell us about that.
No, sure. Health Connections Incorporated. We've been in business for 10 years. It's our 10-year anniversary.
awesome.
Yay. We're right on Glendale, in Glendale on Port Washington Road, 4655 North Port Washington Road, Suite 300. Our clinic is, and my background is in microbiology, African American studies, clinical laboratory sciences, and international public health.
What a slacker in school. Are you gonna take those easy courses in school?
So I have 3 degrees. So as we can continue to do 2 masters, and the reason, and I've always been in healthcare. So healthcare administration has always been a passion of mine. So with the public health lens that I have, and I employ the doctors, I employ the nurses, I employ the nurse practitioners, and all the other staff, the outreach staff. I have a public health lens, and that makes healthcare delivery different. I'm always looking at the patient experience, making sure that that matches up with what needs to happen in order for people to gain trust of the system. I know I'm dealing with people that don't trust healthcare already, so I do my best to make sure that whatever we do, we don't add to that distrust, and then we actually add to the trust.
So when we talk about public health,
Yes.
okay, there's our private experience with our health.
Mhm.
But as we discovered in COVID, we realized that no man is an island. We are all
Exactly.
connected. So the public health piece becomes important
Mhm.
on a lot of different levels. You talked about trust.
Mhm.
Maybe go into why people, particularly descendants of enslaved Africans, but I don't even think it's descendants of enslaved Africans. There's a lot of people just have
Mhm.
distrust of the healthcare system.
With reason.
You say what
Mhm.
reason? What,
Yeah.
what do you mean?
So the healthcare system, and you had mentioned the white coat earlier, and it's actually a sign of authority as well. Authority, you have some sense of, you gained it, you earned your white coat, black man, white coat. Like, these are important symbols of authority, especially in medical situations. And people abused it. They've abused it in the past. And so not everybody, and then actually a very minor group of people, but it was enough to make an impact on people's trust of the system, and making sure that they actually can trust their providers, trust the people that are taking care of them. And so we do our best to not feed into that, and do our best to be transparent and explain things to people and demystify healthcare so that people can really take us up on our offer to get their care taken care of. Like, you need your medical visit every year, just your annual. If you at least get that, then we can at least have an opportunity to start our relationship. And some people we only see once a year, and that's fine. But I tell you, if something happens within that year, now they don't have to go and try to create a new relationship with someone. They already have a relationship with us. So it's easier for them to come and tell us what's going on, how can we help you, and figure that stuff out. So it's important for us to be clear. The history of healthcare, especially in the United States, has not been fared well for us as Black people, brown people, and any people that are different than the mainstream white. To be honest,
We were talking about why maybe we can't underestimate the power of faith and religion.
absolutely.
But I don't know who we were talking to, but we had this whole conversation around, well, for many Black folks, we couldn't even afford health care.
Mm-hmm.
So then we had to be more dependent either on home remedies or on faith because of just access issues, right?
Absolutely. And those things, though, they still come into play now, because now it's actually was better for us to do the homemade remedies. I remember my grandmother, who is a nurse as well. She's 95 years old, and she's still a nurse. And
She practiced it at 95.
no, she still got her license though.
I don't know.
Oh,
You never
no,
let that
license,
go.
nurse.
Never let that
Don't mess
go.
with that license. But she did not practice. And she's from Arkansas. And I remember we grew up on, what was that, 28th and Chambers. And we used to go over to Dr. Carter's all the time. Every time one of her kids, grandkids, whomever got sick, she sent us over there. And that was with her as a registered nurse that worked at the county at that. So she knew her stuff and she was tight with it. But she knew enough from her history and how she grew up in Arkansas that the remedies that Dr. Carter was giving us came from the spaces that she understood and knew and had proven, that they worked. So she was, she worked in both spaces. And I think most nurses, especially of her in her age category and such, did. So I don't know if you can speak to that too.
Well, I always talk about Dr. Carter.
Love him. Loved him.
How you go to him and say, this, that, and,
Yep.
and he would help.
I got a drug test coming.
help me.
He helped a whole lot of people.
Yeah, he did.
He helped a whole lot of people know the drug test.
He did. And he would go out in the community and talk about it and help you. But what I like about Erica, that besides I know her mama. Yeah, I know your mama.
Look, this is Milwaukee. Everybody know everybody mama.
I know your people.
Mama,
I know your
I know
people.
your
Yep.
people. I went to
The
school with your
Sinclairs.
people.
Here we
Yeah,
go.
yeah. But
Great Tennesseans.
Yes,
They're from
absolutely.
Arkansas, but they're folks from Tennessee.
Arkansas and Tennessee. Yep.
okay.
I know. This is what I'm saying. We probably connected.
But what I like about what Erica is doing is she is grouping the city together.
Okay.
Hypertension is a problem in our community, and it has no signs and symptoms. You
Mhm.
don't really know it until
You had a stroke.
or you
Just
get
a-
your blood pressure checked.
Mhm.
So what we're trying to do is, she's at the helm of it, but what we're trying to do is we're trying to produce collaboration with everybody in the city, churches, um, federally funded qualified
Health
healthcare
centers.
centers.
Yep.
I always mess that.
CBOs.
Everybody.
Mhm.
And we want to have these mass screenings where we can cover our city and diagnose people, or let people know whose blood pressures are elevated. If they
Mhm.
don't have a clinic, we get them a clinic.
Absolutely.
If they can't afford their meds, we'll find a way.
Absolutely.
And go ahead.
And so for Health Connections, one thing is that we are part of the Wisconsin Association of Free and Charitable Clinics, as well as we take insurance. So we're a hybrid clinic. And I did that on purpose from that design because oftentimes we find people in the community. We do a lot of community outreach and education around health issues like we're talking about here, heart health in particular. And as we want people to have opportunities to choose where they want to go. And if you don't have insurance and we want to come to us, you can come to us. And then if you get insurance, because we do help people get insurance, that you don't have to necessarily leave us at that point. Because at that point, you probably create a relationship with us, you know what I'm saying? And we don't want you to have to to do it over again. So we are a free and charitable clinic as well. So to your point, we make sure that people know what their diagnoses are and get the help that they need wherever they are as far as their insurance is concerned and things like that. And so that helps with people trusting the system because they don't have to keep moving around. They could just stay with us. So to your point about the Milwaukee Heart Health Learning Collaborative, we are a group of people that came together under a CDC grant. And Dr. Greer is our other co-lead, and I'm the co-lead. And so what we did was we split it up. She does community engagement, and she's a registered dietitian as well. So the nutrition factor that we talked about for heart health really comes into play with her expertise as a registered dietitian. Mine is in the clinical component because I own a clinic. I understand how these things work in that way, and monitoring and helping monitor with the other clinical partners that we have. It's just easier for me to have that conversation with them. So together we have Milwaukee Heart Health Learning Collaborative, where people that are interested in helping to focus in on the 1860 census tract. So specifically that track, that's the only track in the entire state of Wisconsin that has more than 53% of their residents that have uncontrolled hypertension. More than 53.
You're listening to Community Voice. We're inside Be Healthy, Be You. Miss Julia Means, Miss Brenda Buchanan, Miss Erica Sinclair. We're going to take a quick break, and we'll be right back. That's ironic because that's an Ohio Players song that they're using. Yeah, that's Ohio Players.
Yeah.
Caller, welcome to the program. Good morning.
Oh, hold on one sec. Let me turn the radio down.
Doesn't get louder when you turn
Okay.
it down. Turn it to your right.
My other right?
Your other right. That's what I used to tell kids. I was teaching them left hand, right hand. I mean, like, use your other left. Oh, that one. Yeah, that one. What's up, man?
Well, let me say shalom to the family. So you had a new guest today?
Yes.
Yes, that's me,
So me,
Erica Sinclair. Yes.
pleasure. Welcome.
Thank you.
So now I have to initiate her with a question.
No, I was going to ask, is
Yes.
it okay that we have
Yes,
her?
right.
You made it sound like you brought a little friend home. Your family, you can't have no company. You brought somebody over.
We gotta be certified.
Uh-oh.
Oh, well, my question goes back to, and this may not be for you. It's just the panel. That's just my way of
Okay.
introducing my craziness. I've been exposed to Keith for a long time, for long enough to develop some crazy of my own. So, yeah,
My fault.
yeah, I heard that in the background. Yeah, well, we all know. I mean, I listen to Julia and Brenda, and hear that laughter and some of the contributions they make, to get you going and keep you going, So, but anyway, you were talking about heart disease early, and I'm curious. There are various options, or are there various options that can be provided for the level or the severity of heart disease once it's detected? And what I'm getting at is that I know that they use pacemakers and things like that, but, are there various situations or different situations that determine what they will use for treatment of a weak heart? And then once it reaches a certain level of damage, then they'll do something else, and on and on. Is there a process that they put in place? You understand what I'm?
Yes. Cardiovascular medicine is very advanced, and we even have mechanical hearts that can keep you going for so long until your transplant is ready. But they've come a long way. They can put an automatic defibrillator in you, so if you go into an irregular rhythm, it can shock you out of it. You mentioned the pacemaker that they do if your heart rate is too slow. There are amazing things that are happening medication wise and mechanical wise, as far as helping cardiovascular systems work more effectively. You have to go to a cardiologist, and I always say that you have your plumber and your electrician. So you have the electrician that's going to deal with the electrical part of the heart, with the rhythm and everything, and then the plumber that will deal with the plugs and clogs that you get from cholesterol and blood clots. So you must have a cardiologist, and they say that.
So you must have to have a plumber.
You must. if you're a diabetic, a cardiologist should be on your team.
Absolutely.
It's a metaphor, y'all. Plumbers don't help with your heart. Might cause you to have a heart attack when you get that bill.
Right. That's the truth.
Really will impact your heart.
Yeah.
So, and I appreciate that. The reason I asked the question is because I've had family members who have had a pacemaker put in, and I don't know if the other has a defibrillator. But my point in asking was, is there a level of severity that would determine why they would give one a pacemaker and the other the defibrillator. And then I've heard that they, will go in and put these stents in for bypasses and things of that nature. So, fortunately for me, I haven't had to have either one of those yet, and I'm working on trying to avoid it at all costs. But I recognize that as a family history. One of the things is hypercholesterolemia that led, over years to the damage that was incurred by that, the cardio system. And, I've had uncles that have had these various treatments because of the damage that, has happened to their hearts over years, and then, not really having an opportunity early enough to catch it and redirect it or change the behaviors, if you will, in order to benefit yourself. So I appreciate the information. And if there's anything you could say as related to, at what point they may determine this patient needs a pacemaker, this patient needs a transplant, just a brief, if you have anything in brief on that, I'd appreciate it.
Well,
and I'll hang up and listen.
I appreciate you.
Well, the biggest thing is determining what the issue is. So, like Julia said, a plumber. So if your arteries are clogged, obviously you're going to be on some cholesterol lowering medication, but they may be able to put a stent in or a balloon in to open up those blood vessels. If you have a low heart rate and it's not to the point that you're not getting enough blood flow to your body, then that's when they would use a pacemaker. So that would set the heart at the number of beats that would be appropriate for you. There's things, the defibrillator is if your heart goes in and out of a regular rhythm, or you're in a rhythm that's dangerous, like your heart's beating too fast. They have to shock it back into a normal rhythm. So the treatments are dependent on what's going on with your cardiovascular system. So it's individual to everybody. Not every, you may have all kinds of other issues, and the only thing you need is a pacer. So it really depends on what is going on in your particular system that they would determine what the treatment is for you. So you can't compare yourself to somebody else. It's based on your own medical history.
Erica was talking about that she has a dietitian, and Craig kind of alluded to lifestyle. Obviously, our diet is part of our lifestyle. So when people are in the clinic, is it more holistic, saying that there's some things we can do medically, but there's some behavior things that you can do?
Absolutely. And it's part of giving people control over their bodies and their decisions around how to do the prevention component. Some of us, like we have mentioned, definitely genetics plays a huge role in our health. And the fact that a lot of people don't know their medical history, family history, is a problem. So,
know your history.
Please.
Black History Month. Every time someone come up with a fact, but know your health history.
You got to know your health history. You got to find out what people died from, what people are dealing with right now. Like that's what you should do as a family, is to tell that information. And that's not you in my business. That is my business because I need to know, so that this a clue that my provider can use to help me if I end up hitting there. And
it's not just good enough to say, oh, he had a bad heart, because that doesn't really tell us anything, right? We need to know what was the issue with the heart. And we've talked about this before. There seems to be so much shame with sharing, what people died of. They just like ball it up and hide it. It's like the secret.
I won't get into. The sister was just on talking about narratives, and Black people just don't die.
Yep. We got a story.
There's a story every time somebody
got a
story. We got a story. That's why people don't want to get it.
It's a reason.
Well, see, y'all didn't know. See, I knew Jenny. And Jenny had told me that Keith was over there eating that food. He had no business eating that food.
Yeah.
They tell you the whole thing. To get the whole story. And then, wait a minute, then show up at the funeral and start giving you a whole medical chart.
So you have somebody that knows the information.
Whether it's accurate or not, they know something.
They know something. They know more than you did.
That's right.
but it becomes that. So you need a family history. We also need to know what people are eating, and they need to be honest with us. Like they got to tell us what they're eating. So that's part of getting that relationship building
Only
with a
eat
good
one pork chop.
provider. Just one? Nobody eats just
Just
one
like when
pork
he's
chop.
asking me, like, do you smoke? Oh yeah, I only smoke maybe 2 cigarettes a day. I'm on my second pack.
See.
Yeah,
And that's
give a little
huge.
bit of
The
mhm.
smoking component in heart health. That's
Oh,
huge.
yes.
Even secondhand smoke can impact
Mhm.
somebody's heart health. So it becomes again with us providing primary care and direct clinical care from a public health lens. We talk about that kind of stuff. It's the personal responsibility you have to your community. What is that? Do you have the responsibility of getting your vaccine so that you don't give me a condition that my system can't take?
Measles.
Measles.
Right.
And
Got a measles
so
outbreak
this is
right
the
now.
same kind of thing. So when you're smoking, even though if you're smoking and you do all the tricks in the trade to not smell it, it could
Mhm.
still impact my health.
Sure.
So we have to be careful about what that looks like as far as even smoking. Definitely eating though. We have to pay attention to how we eat. Definitely need to be spiced. We need to be seasoned. We're Black. We need our food to be
Mhm.
seasoned and all that. But it doesn't have to be a pork chop. Or it could be a pork chop once a week. Like there's harm
Mhm.
reduction thing that you could do here.
Sure.
I'm just saying.
Not fried,
Not
preferably.
fried, do baked. There's
Low
ways.
fat.
So
why
Dr.
even eat it?
Well, but I'm telling you,
Hey,
Dr.
pork chop
Why you
on the
making the
grill
pork chop
is
healthy?
one of the
Why
best
we even
things.
eat that
It's
bad
amazing.
boy?
Yes.
Let me tell you. And so Dr. Greer, who's the registered dietitian, she also has a PhD in public health, and which is one reason why we work well together from that public health lens. She does have ways of, and she's not the only one. We work with several chefs and other dietitians where they can create food options that are healthy and that taste good. And so we need to find those so that we can get both sides of our diet, satisfied. So with Milwaukee Heart Health Learning Collaborative, our goal is to really work within that census tract area, which is kind of like Walnut over to maybe Burleigh, up to Holton, and then as far as I-43, I think is what it runs up into. And so there's 17 neighborhood associations in that space. And we want the residents to come in and be a part of us creating a solution for getting that hypertension, that percentage of uncontrolled hypertension down in that area.
So we talked about, you talk about lifestyle.
Mhm.
But what about unresolved trauma?
The stress from
the
that.
stress.
It
How
comes
do
up in
we
your
have
body.
how do we have those conversations?
Yeah, we actually have a therapist in our clinic too for this one of the very reasons because people hold on to things and it manifests itself in your body physically, and so it makes a difference in how you even take care of yourself. So the therapist does a lot, especially around newly diagnosed people, and that's diagnosed with anything. You can get diagnosed with diabetes, and you're like, oh, and it just takes you out. You have a way to figure out how to manage that. It can take you out. It can take you out, right? So you got to have somebody to help you manage that mindset and how to figure out how to get to this, to the space where we need you to be, which is in partnership with us as providers, and keeping you healthy. So that matters.
And I don't know how comfortable I am now with the term coping.
Mhm.
I don't know if coping is resolution. I think coping is kind of more of a managing of it.
It is.
Well,
as
some things
opposed
are
to-
never going to go away.
Exactly.
Okay.
So you don't have any other choice but
Right.
to cope with it because and I said this before. Once you get congestive heart failure, for example, that's it. It doesn't get better. Once you have it, you can't get rid of it.
Mm-hmm.
And so you can do what you can to live longer with congestive heart failure, but you will never be cured from it.
Mm-hmm.
And so we're trying to do things to get people to even not get into that space.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yeah. But even with the traumas like you brought up,
Yep.
we hopefully get to a place where we can deal with them, but our memory of that is still there.
Mhm.
And so the best thing that we can do is to have tools, which would be coping.
Mhm.
And because those feelings every once in a while are going to resurface, no matter how much you've dealt with them,
Mhm.
they're still there.
Mhm.
Caller, welcome to the program. Good morning.
Good morning, Mr. Parris. Assalamu alaikum, Ramadan Mubarak. Thank you for taking my call.
Ramadan Kareem.
Yes, sir. I had an incident. It wasn't me, but I had to help. And I was on my way to work. I tried to make it to work, but I didn't make it to work because I had a loved one that had like a severe anxiety attack. and I didn't really think it was real. I was like, I don't know what this is all about until I got with them. But they were like, having an anxiety attack, and I'm like, what can I do to help this person?
Listen.
Mhm. And sometimes those panic attacks come out of nowhere. They don't, and sometimes people don't even know why they're having a
They're
panic
triggered.
attack, right? And so, and sometimes those symptoms are so severe that you might think you're having a heart attack, or so the only way to really know the difference is to get into the hospital and be evaluated, because the symptoms can be very, very similar.
Very similar.
So but yeah, sometimes it's hard to help a person, but like you said, listen, be there for them, support them, help them get the care that they need.
Make sure they're safe
Yes,
from themselves and
correct.
anything else.
Because we can't help remove it. Only they can do it, and they can only do that when they learn how to deal with it. A lot of times medication is helpful, when they go to the hospital. So
If they take it.
yes, yeah. Well, if they go to the hospital and they're those symptoms, elevated heart rate, chest pain, they're probably willing to take the medication at that moment.
Yep. That's super motivating.
That's right, at that moment. But then and then they really need to seek some help.
Fear is a motivator.
Fear is.
I back during COVID, and I could never
It's
get I got you, Christopher. Sorry about that, man.
No, it's okay. It's all right.
Hold on,
It
just
was
a
the
moment.
CIA, FBI, one of them. Men in black. But I wanted to ask the nurses. Man on Mars, man in the moon. Somebody did.
I'm gonna have an anxiety attack.
Right. Like, no, don't do that, Mr. Parris. But look, I mean, okay, here's my question to the nurses. And I heard you saying something, speaking to it. But we had to go to the emergency. I wasn't able to make it to work. And is there, what, other than me being there as a person and taking this person to the hospital emergency, is there any, like, do you have any, other than like chemically based inorganic substances, is there anything that you probably can speak to that I probably could tell my loved one that they might be able to, because they don't like taking like the hardcore medicine. And I produced this medicine and I understand why, but do you know of anything that might be natural, maybe herbal, or homeopathic, I think that's the word, that I could tell them that they might want to use? Because I never seen a person have an anxiety attack until yesterday, and it freaked me out. So can you help me? Thank you.
It's interesting when he talked about that. I don't know, you get this in sports where you hyperventilate.
Yeah.
You get so anxious and you just it's amazing. So, you try to calm yourself down. But yeah, you can I had we were supposed to do this presentation. We merged child support into the Department of Health and Human Services. And so they had asked me to do a presentation on child support because I go out and I teach about child support. And we didn't quite understand what they were looking for. They were looking for like a quick summation. I thought it was going to be, my thing. So now I have to figure out, how do I get 30 minutes of material into 5 minutes? And I hyperventilated. I hadn't done that since I played basketball in high school.
So did you blow into the paper bag and slow yourself down?
No, there were no paper bags.
Oh,
He was just in a room full of people looking at him.
Full of people going like, what's going on?
And you have a wonderful presentation, so I can understand that. But what our caller was saying is, at that particular time, there was no homeopathic meds or anything that can do, because that was a crisis situation. And at that time, that person needed to be seen medically. But as far as on a routine, regular basis, I'm sure there are things that they can take that can help them. But a lot of the things that they take, they definitely got to let their primary care physician know that they're taking it. and they need to seek a therapist too that can help them deal with the situations and know what medications that are good for them.
And like we talked before, just because something is natural or homeopathic doesn't mean it doesn't interact with your other medications. It doesn't have they do have side effects. And so, just because it's not a pill in a bottle that was prescribed to us, those things that are natural also have side effects. And like Julia said, letting your doctor, pharmacist know, because those drug interactions, they can maybe make a drug too strong, or they can make a drug so it doesn't work anymore at all. And so you have to be real careful about that.
Absolutely. And I had to learn how to breathe. There's breath work, and I didn't really know it till I went to Bali, and I was with a psychotherapist in the middle of the jungle. And that's when I discovered the power of breathing.
Yeah, we
in the middle of a jungle.
Yeah, it actually,
In the middle of the jungle.
yeah, relaxes the
More than
parasympathetic.
breathing.
It was more than breathing that took place. It was screaming and yelling and all kind of other stuff. But I had to figure out how to breathe.
Yeah,
And I literally remember when I was having my son, and I literally stopped
That's what I was
breathing.
getting ready to say. That
I did. I stopped breathing.
Yeah,
I had to have somebody in
what
front
they
of
tell
my
you to do
face.
when you're doing a delivery is your breathing.
Yeah.
right. That's what they have you focus on.
Yep.
It affects your parasympathetic nervous system. It slows down your breathing, your heart rate, all of those when you learn those techniques. But you got to learn them before you're in a situation, because when that situation comes, if you haven't practiced it and know how to use it, you're not going to be very
and it
good
sounds
at it.
crazy. You're like practicing breathing.
Well,
I tell you, it is a lifesaver.
One
It
of
has
my
been.
mentors gave me, he said, when fatigue sets in, habit takes over.
Mhm.
And we were talking about
Ooh.
how when you
Fall asleep at the wheel, keep driving.
keep driving. No, I'm just saying that's why
Yeah.
when we used to run, they used to call them suicides, and then we shoot free throws. And the reason why you shot free throws when you were tired was to work on good habits, because at the end of the ball game,
You're tired.
you're tired, fatigue, and your ability to be able to breathe helps you be able to make sure your oxygen is getting to the brain so you can think. All those things in terms of your decision making. And of course, that's a life metaphor in terms of our behavior things. We were just talking about, we use that term coping. When people are in stress, how do they handle stress? I eat. So it's that ability. Even if you're a runner or walker, they tell you how you breathe is real important, and be able. But man, that whole piece about breathing and how important breathing really is. No, he was saying hyperventilate. But it's all those things that we kind of prepare ourselves. I'll never forget a friend of mine. She'd had her first baby. We were really young then. In our early 20s, she had her first baby. And every time the baby cried, she'd feed her. Every time that baby cried, she'd feed her. To this day, I don't know why that baby ain't fat. She's a grown woman now. But and her mama was going like, she ain't hungry. But if you now conditioning the child, we've got this Pavlovian thing going on, that when you're unhappy, you eat. And for a lot of people, that's been our programming. Where your ability to be able to, it's hard walking away though. I know I could get so stressful I could actually sit down and eat a whole pizza.
And then you go, I can't believe
I
ate
the whole
thing.
By myself. You didn't share? You nothing?
And then you're miserable.
Right. What's wrong with me? Then they get into the shame cycle.
Right. And for people who have eating disorders, that's where the bulimia, then something else kicks in, and they do what they do. They can't. Yeah, it's a vicious cycle.
You're listening to Community Voice. We're inside Be Healthy, Be You. Miss Brenda Buchanan, Miss Julia Means, Miss Erica Sinclair. We're going to take a quick break. We'll be right back. appreciate it. Thank you. Welcome back. And let me say that was public health.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
It was.
It was.
No. I'm just.
Find categories for some of the stuff y'all talk about. You figure out medical terminology for it.
It wasn't the conversations we were having that really freaked me out. It's when you go in the exhibition hall and then what you're exposed to.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it was just like, wow. Okay. No, I was just telling them that. Yeah, I would tell.
Remembering.
And I'm pretty open-minded, but I saw some things. I was going like, "Oh, you do that? You use that for what?" Yeah, but no, I was telling them that back in the day, I worked for Planned Parenthood, and we had there was a sex education, I should have said that, conference that they had in St. Louis, and I went down and I was a presenter. And
Oh, you didn't tell us you was presenting.
Right. He left that out.
a PowerPoint.
Oh.
On.
Clean it up, Jack.
On.
Clean it up.
Got my little song on. Call me Chocolate Thunder.
Oh.
Delicious. Call me delicious.
Delicious D.
This cat up here calling no grown man delicious.
It was.
Oh.
With your club day special cash.
Right. But you can call me delicious.
You call me delicious. No, so we were talking about the importance. Well, actually, what we were talking about was.
Get there. What
happened was we were talking off air about behaviors of older Americans.
Mm-hmm.
And so we and I had, and what I said was I was at this conference, and I made a comment about why are old people talking about having sex? They don't have sex anymore. And I pointed out that there was a gerontologist. She was in the back of the room, and she raised her hand. She said, "Mr. Parris, I don't know if that's true, because I treat a whole lot of elderly people for venereal disease." STIs now,
Yeah.
right?
Mhm.
Yep.
Mhm.
And
You kind of specialize in that, don't you?
I do. That's one of my areas.
and that really is a public health issue that
Oh,
we
yeah.
don't
Oh my gosh,
really-
huge.
we don't
It
really talk
is.
about.
We don't. And I used to run the Milwaukee Health Department's HIV department. And so so I have understand how that works internally in that way. So we work with people that live with HIV with care treatment. And then we also do prevention for HIV and STIs. And so, yeah, you'll be surprised who comes to get tested and where we also can go and do testing for people and treatment. And again, there's no judgment. I fire people for judgment on my teams. That's not a thing.
Mhm.
But we do take care of people, and then we also help them through the tracing, the contact tracing process, because that's where some of the shame and some of the, like, I'm not telling you who I had sex with. We have to get people comfortable enough to tell us that, so that we can really stop the infection.
Especially when you're dealing with Black men who do not identify with the term gay. I know
Yes.
years back,
Yes.
towards epidemiology, they had to change how they ask that question.
Mhm.
Have you had sex with another man?
Mhm.
Absolutely.
Because if you ask them if they're gay,
They'll
They'll tell you no.
They'll be
Right.
like, no, because that's not the label they put on themselves. And so we actually, so that's the other population that we work with is LGBTQ plus population, and especially transgender health. And we intentionally chose those populations to work with because they have the hardest time navigating healthcare. And so part of our, I have this philosophy that you have to be in it to win it and to change it. And so that's why I decided to go down the route of having a clinic and owning a clinic, so that when patients go through the different other healthcare systems, I have a platform on which to talk to other colleagues about it. So I can go to Freighter and say, hey, this experience should be like this, and it wasn't. And and just help the clients get through it, but also help our colleagues get better at what they're doing.
and I think that part of what you do becomes important. I wish this would have been around when we really dealt with the HIV/AIDS epidemic
Yes.
in our community,
Mhm.
being able to have conversations. And anytime yesterday, we spent an hour and a half. Any time we start having conversations around sex,
Mhm.
it then engenders a lot of things.
Yes.
It's our faith traditions, it's our experiences in life. I appreciate when you say it's judgment free. Jesus
absolutely.
never asked how a person got a disease,
Mhm.
Mhm.
right? And the only time he asked the man, who was there at that well, at the spring, do you want to get well? But then when you keep reading that story, he bumps into the man again and he says to him, if you don't change, you're going to be in a worse condition than you were when I healed you. And I think that becomes the other part of it that we do. You were talking about people taking their medication. We do it just enough to arrest what we're dealing with immediately, and then we stop taking it and then go back to the very thing that caused us the need for the medication in the first place.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So, if I heard many, many years ago, revolution is a change of mind, that if we're able, that's where it's mind over matter.
Yes.
That how our thinking
Mhm.
about things, how we think about food, how we think about our health, how do we think about ourselves? Because a lot of times we're dealing with some internal self-loathing. There are people there, and we do a very good job of doing public presentation where I look like everything is okay, but in fact, it
It's
really
not.
isn't. And to be able to have a safe space where you can go in and be honest.
Absolutely. And that is, again, part of the Milwaukee Heart Health Learning Collaborative. It's a community. We're having a community showcase on Saturday, April 5th from 10 a.m. to 2 p.m. It'll be at the Thrive On building on MLK. And that's where the people that are currently a part of the Learning Collaborative, the organizations, will be there with tables. As of yesterday, and it keeps happening, we have 30 people that are going to be there with resources.
Oh, that's
30
awesome.
organizations, and we have at least 100 some people that are signed up. If you're interested in signing up to be there, and it's free, it's open to the public, we will feed you. Because anything time I'm involved, usually some food involved. So we're going to feed you. We're actually going to have access to the resources. And Versity has decided that they're going to do a blood donation event there as well.
Oh,
and they
that's
are
nice.
actually located on that first floor. So they're going to partner with us in this event. So we need at least 20 people to sign up with them in order for us to meet our goal with blood donations as well. And we know how important, as we've been talking, blood is in the aspect of heart health. It's everything, and we need it. And especially if you are a BIPOC, so Black, Indigenous, people of color, Black folks need Black folks' blood. Period.
Yes, we do.
We need our blood, and we don't have enough of it. And one of the biggest reasons is because a lot of us, including myself, we're anemic. So there's things that we need to do. There's certain foods we need to eat in order for us to get ready. So at this point, I'm putting out a public community level call. Get my public health hat on. That we need to eat more iron and foods rich in iron this week, in order to get ready for the blood drive for next week.
And give us some examples of food rich in iron.
So see, this is where my dietitian friend should be here, because that
Brenda
is not.
know.
Brenda, you know him? You know him?
Yeah. Well, it's,
Go ahead.
a lot of our meats are going to be rich in iron.
Yes.
You got your list?
I don't.
Oh,
this is not what it says.
Green leafy vegetables.
Green leafy veggies.
Yes.
A lot of our beans are going to be high in protein and iron.
Beans.
Get that little
so-
cornbread with that.
Jiffy or scratch?
Just a little bit. Oh,
And when we're eating those meats, we want lean
Oh, hold on, wait a minute.
portions of those.
You had a
meats.
reaction.
I did.
What you
Are
react
we
to?
really doing Jiffy?
Yes, we are. Oh, go on. Brenda.
Go ahead.
No, I think most of us know what iron rich foods are.
Do you think?
A lot of people like protein. They like meat. Most of our community likes meat, and that's where you're going to get your biggest bang for your buck is the
Absolutely.
meats. But again, make sure those are lean choices. Your turkey, your fish, your chicken, beef and pork are okay, but you want to limit those and make sure they're very lean varieties. You cut all that extra fat off them.
Yep. And we need that. And we need
It's
our
still
blood.
delicious.
It is so good. You have to see.
We were just talking a pork chop on the grill. There is nothing in the world
Ooh.
better than that. It's
Mm.
not fried. It's
It's so good.
But then we want that meat cooked.
Yes,
Yeah, it
well,
could be
and that's okay. If you want it cooked, we don't want you burning it up so you're getting all those carcinogens.
That's
but
what we do.
yes, some people do.
No, I mean, I
Right.
think, I'm with
Invest in
you.
a meat thermometer, for those of you that cook, on a regular basis, so you don't have to burn it up to get it done.
I want to say the churches that we worked with that came to the luncheon,
Mhm.
April
Mhm.
23rd at 11 o'clock at Ebenezer, we want those representatives to come, and we're gonna plan and educate and get them prepared to also participate in blood pressure screening and working together with the Heart Health Collaborative.
Speaking of, what about? I know that there's some churches who've done this, the defibrillators,
Mhm.
and training people on how to
Use them.
Yeah.
hmm And they're usually pretty, I mean, most of them are pretty self-explanatory.
Okay.
Obviously, getting the training helps because it diffuses to a lot of the anxiety around having to use it, being familiar with, what's there. But most of them, there'll be a step-by-step guide to tell you exactly what to do. But it is good to be trained. But if you're out in the public somewhere and you're not trained and you see one, especially those ones in the public, they're very simplistic and tell you
With
exactly
pictures
what
and
you
everything.
picture.
Mhm.
Put the pad here, put it here, turn it on, and the machine tells you what to do
It'll
while
talk
you're
to you.
going through it. But
Mhm.
most people that go into a cardiac arrest are not going to survive without a defibrillator. So it's really important that if you have them in your churches, you're familiar with them because they are lifesavers.
Absolutely.
We have one.
At your church?
Mhm.
And that's important.
How
I
many
think
nurses
we have
do you
3.
at your churches? You, Sister Saffold?
Sister Penny,
Okay.
we have.
So you have
But you don't have to be a nurse.
Anybody, they're lay friendly.
Mhm.
I mean, like I said, that's why they're designed so that anybody can come along and use them.
I think too, as well, that if you own these machines, make sure that you do the proper maintenance on these
Yes,
machines.
To get battery
absolutely.
charge, right?
Because it was a situation. No, seriously, it was a situation that happened at our church. His heart stopped for 18 minutes, and
I hope somebody was doing CPR in between.
they was trying to do CPR, but they got the machine and realized the machine didn't work. So while we're waiting on the paramedics, they're doing CPR on them, and this man went without oxygen for 8. I sat and watched him.
Brain damage after that?
No.
Well, if
he's
they were
up
pumping,
talking
if
and-
they were doing chest compressions, they were taking oxygen to his brain. So he was still getting some oxygen. But
Yeah.
if they weren't doing that, that wouldn't happen.
They tried. They tried, and it was because I remember it was a period of time that they tried for about 3-4 minutes, and nothing was working. And paramedics was on the way. Paramedics came and shocked him at least 5-6 times before they took him to the hospital. And I remember standing there when the paramedics was talking to the doctors, and they asked the doctor what should they do, and the doctor said, "Don't give up, keep shocking them." And on the way to the hospital, he ended up sitting up. Long story short, he don't have any brain damage. He's one of the elders at the church. He's functioning like nothing happened.
And see, and that's the beauty of calling 911. Those paramedics that arrive, they have direction from a physician.
Yeah.
That physician can see
Yeah.
what's coming across while that rhythm.
Yeah.
So they can tell whether or not that keep going
Yeah.
or that this is,
I would have to say, won't
So-
he do it?
Yeah.
Won't he?
I seen it.
Won't he?
Well, God is still
Yeah.
Someone that had
Still on the throne.
asked my mother after I had the stroke, they said, how is he? Like is he messed up? And Mom said, no more messed up than he was. So he back to normal. Well, I think that be able to have those conversations, and I really appreciate you all bringing in different folks from our faith tradition, because we do have medical emergencies. There's a friend of mine. They talk about timing of everything. She had a stroke, but she was in church. And so the fact that she was around someone, because many people have strokes by themselves.
Right. And then they
Right.
don't survive.
They don't survive because the amount of time you need to get there. But the fact that she was there in this public space, it really it saved her on a lot of different levels. So I think our understanding of things have to be that I say it all the time. I said that once medical science is done all it can do, now it's faith.
Absolutely.
And that kind of gets back to where we started, where for a lot of us, we couldn't afford a doctor, so all we had was faith. And then our ability to be able to manage and compensate till it gets to the point where now it's very dire. And what do we do? And now it requires, it's like women, especially Black women, they don't have a higher incidence of breast cancer. It is when it's diagnosed that's the issue,
Right.
you know, for a lot of different things. So I think it's what you're doing here in terms of not only providing the health care, but the educational piece is real important.
Absolutely. We want people to have what they need when they need it and how they need it. And to your point, with the resources being ready and people being trained and educated and all the things. So we have to do community level health. There's no individual health only. That's not going to work. We have to do community level health so that people around you know what's going on with you. And if something's happening, they're ready to help, because there's nothing more painful than seeing somebody have a need and you can't do anything.
Just to piggyback off of that, I think that a lot of churches should implement some type of training classes or something, you know, put it out there that if you're, you know, if you want to learn how to do CPR, if you want to learn how to identify signs of a stroke and things like that, you know, just to help, because in the church setting, what would happen if somebody fall out, the first thing they do is they start praying, which praying is good, but scripture says watch and pray.
911.
Right.
You see what I'm saying? See,
You over here praying on me since somebody called the paramedics.
But because of people don't know what to do in that situation because they're not trained, the first thing they go to is what they know. So they start praying. And again,
Which we need.
prayer is great.
Right.
You know, there's nothing wrong with prayer.
Right.
But it's also in the scripture to watch and pray. So outside of you praying, you got to do something else.
Yeah.
I never forget this woman fell, and she fell in front of the church. And people go, "Are you all right?" She said, "Get me up."
Right. Help me.
Yeah.
Don't ask me how I'm doing.
Yeah.
Get me up. I mean, you know, help me. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
And you sit up asking all these questions, and you know, because like we said, we talk Black people just don't die.
Yeah. Yeah.
They just don't die. But I
They'll
Well,
go
you
get
know,
the
when
white
you're-
sheet and throw it over you and
Yeah,
pray.
that's
You
not
laying there
good,
dying,
right?
like, no, call 911.
Yeah. Well, you know, that's kind of a good segue a little bit into our Urban Church Wellness Program, which we've had for many, many years. But now we are, you know, a lot of churches we lost during COVID and that. And but that is what Julia and I and our team does, is we work with churches to bring that education to them. And we do have a training event coming up, or an educational event on heart health in April. And so we'll have more information about it. But, you know, it's for the churches to be able to come and learn about these different health topics, how they can, you know, take it back to their church, as well as how we can support them in that. And so so if your church is interested in being a part of our program, that would be awesome.
Absolutely.
Well, you know, and I think it's your pastor was there.
Yeah, I know. I found
Oh, he was there.
He was there.
Okay.
Yeah.
So then
Who's
he's.
your pastor?
Marlon Locke.
Oh, okay.
Oh,
Yeah.
Marlon, he was there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah,
So
he's been with us for a long time.
yeah.
Mhm.
So I know that then he did get the invite already for the 23rd. So should talk to him about that.
Well, I think we found out during COVID that some of the hardest hit folks were churches, because at that point we didn't know how the spread was happening.
Right.
And so when you look at the devastation that it had to the leadership of Church of God in Christ,
Mhm.
No,
but
so
yeah.
many
whole
died.
lot.
and it was a
Yes.
whole
Yeah.
lot. And then we discovered, but you had comorbidities.
Yeah.
Mhm.
So
That
and I
impacted
always use
that.
the example of soul food. where the meal that they cooked on Sunday, which was fellowship, was also
Killing them.
Yep.
Yeah,
and
because
kill
they'll
Big
eat
Mama.
it late. They'll eat late. They'll preach.
Well,
whatever
not
get
just
served.
And the heavy
And
food.
what it was.
Yeah, then
High
Yeah.
fat
Catfish look
fried
good, though.
chicken,
That
catfish,
look
yes.
good.
Oh, yeah.
That catfish look good.
Yeah, but if you're eating like that all the time
But your,
Mhm.
and not working it off.
Yeah.
your church is pretty advanced.
Yeah.
Care.
Yeah.
I know.
Yeah.
You got Dr. Beck
Yeah.
there, and
Yeah.
so you are
Mhm.
more advanced than
Yeah.
most churches. But we do work with
Yeah.
the men's group that you guys
Yeah,
had. I
yeah.
was there.
Really?
And teaching them blood pressure.
Oh.
Mm-hmm.
So
And a
Erica,
preview. Go ahead.
no, because we're gonna wrap up.
Good. So I was going to say a preview to the April 23rd with the Urban Church Wellness Initiatives event is the April 5th event, because April 5th, again, we'll be at Thrive on King from 10 a.m. to 2 p.m. And there's going to, out of those 30 resource tables that'll be there, a lot of them will be partners that partner with Urban Church Wellness. So we'll have a preview of, like you had mentioned, the signs of stroke and the things, and what kind of food can you eat that's healthy. And we have a lot of different people coming to talk about the resource that's available. And the goal is to do it in the community that has the most impact on heart health, which we've already discovered is our 1860 census tract, the only place in the state of Wisconsin that has more than 53% of their residents that have uncontrolled hypertension. And we have to help them figure out lifestyle changes that they can make and sustain. And so we need to wrap ourselves and our resources around them to do that. And we got to do that at the community level. We can't just focus on individuals. We have to focus on the community. So walking clubs, Silver Sneakers, that's at Ebenezer, food pantries and food options, and kinship is there. Like we just have to. We have so many resources, and actually really concentrate in that area, the businesses, and we need to be able to highlight them and bring them into the fold, and collectively figure out ways that we can help them not only with their food and their walking, but all of their kind of any other housing and things like that they have. So we're here to do that. Thank you so much for letting us let's have this conversation today.
So let me thank Miss Julia Means, Miss Erica Sinclair, Miss Brenda Buchanan. Let me thank also Dr. Cass Bowers. Hey, the good Lord willing, the creek don't rise. We hope to talk to everybody tomorrow, and as always, go from this place in peace.